Good morning. Welcome to Think and Grow Rich. My name is Sandy Lebec, coming to you from Portugal. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi, Sandy.
Oh, I have my sound off. I was like, oh, and I've somehow clicked some strange drawing technique, so I've got all these pictures and colors on my screen. I'm not sure if anyone else can see that, but if you're new to the group and you'd like to join in the Hangout, then click on the first link that I've just posted in the Facebook group. If you've no idea what the Facebook group is, then ask to join it. It's in the description of this event. If you found this on Google or you're watching this afterwards, just type in Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangout into Google. You'll find the link. It'll be very quick. So today we're reading from chapter 1. Yesterday we read about persistence, and an amazing story about an uncle and a nephew who were digging for gold in Colorado during the gold rush. They'd found some gold. They bought loads of machinery and borrowed money, and went back to the mine with all this new machinery, all excited, like sure they were going to make their first millions, and started digging away, finding the gold. But then eventually the gold ran out, and they couldn't see how to get it, find it again. It was like the supply had run out, they thought. So they quit, and they sold their machinery to a junk man. And this junk man was very clever because he decided to get an engineer to come and look at the mine to see if the gold had really run out. And in fact, there was just a fault line which was disguising where the gold was, where it continued. And so this junk man used all the machinery that he bought at dirt cheap prices and ended up mining the whole mine and becoming making millions and millions. So the whole story was a great example of whenever you feel like you're about to quit, you could just be 3 feet from gold. And that same guy who made that, who had that experience, he then went on to say it served him really well, because later in life, he never quit as easy as he did then, because he realized, wow, sometimes you're just about to quit when you just don't know what's around the corner. So that's what we were reading yesterday, and today we're on the first chapter still. So, Geraldine, would you like to read, or should I read? I really don't mind.
I think I have it up.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hold on.
Okay.
Great.
And the last thing we were just reading, actually, so this makes sense, was about how when the riches that you've been focusing on and working towards, when they begin to come, they will come so fast you'll wonder where they were hiding all these years. That was the last thing that we read, talking about how many of the entrepreneurs that Napoleon Hill interviewed said that had happened to them, that suddenly it was like someone just turned on a tap. So we're on page 16, Geraldine, of the book, and we were at without that research, this book could not. Oh, hang on. When you begin to think and grow rich, and it's near the top of the page.
Is my screen shared, the book there?
Oh, yeah, let me come back and just check. Yes, it is. Go for it.
Okay. So without that research, this book could not have been written. Here, take notice of the very significant truth, viz. The business depression started in 1929 and continued on to an all-time record of destruction until sometime after the President Roosevelt entered office. Then the depression began to fade into nothingness. Just as an electrician in the theatre raises the lights, so gradually that darkness is transmuted into light. Before you realized it, so did the spell of fear in the minds of the people gradually fade away and become faith. Observe very closely. As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instructions for applying those principles, your financial status will begin to improve. And everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible? Not at all. One of the main weaknesses of mankind is the average man's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules which will not work. He knows all the things which cannot be done. This book was written for those who seek the rules which have made others successful, and are willing to stake everything on those rules. A great many years ago, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did with it was to turn the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. That would not be an unwise thing for you to do. Success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. The object of this book is to help all who seek it to learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. Another weakness found in altogether too many people is the habit of measuring everything and everyone by their own impressions and beliefs. Some who will read this will believe that no one can think and grow rich. They cannot think in terms of riches because their thought habits have been steeped in poverty, want, misery, failure, and defeat. These unfortunate people remind me of the predominant Chinese who came to America to be educated in American ways. He attended the University of Chicago. One day, President Harper met this young Oriental on the campus, stopped to chat with him for a few minutes, and asked what had impressed him as being the most noticeable characteristic of the American people. Why, the Chinaman explained, the queer slant of your eyes. Your eyes are off slant. What do we say about the Chinese? We refuse to believe that which we do not understand. We foolishly believe that our own limitations are the proper measure of limitations. Sure, the other fellow's eyes are off slant because they are not the same as our own. Millions of people look at the achievements of Henry Ford after he has arrived and envy him because of his good fortune, or luck, or genius, whatever it is that they credit for Ford's fortune. Perhaps one person in every 100,000 knows the secret of Ford's success, and those who know are too modest or too reluctant to speak of it because of its simplicity. A single transaction will illustrate the secret perfectly. A few years back, Ford decided to produce his now famous V8 motor. He chose to build an engine with the entire 8-cylinder cast in one block and instructed his engineers to produce a design for the engine. The design was placed on paper, but the engineers agreed to a man that it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gas engine block in one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway," but they replied, "It's impossible." "Go ahead," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went ahead. There was nothing else for them to do if they were to remain on the Ford staff. 6 months went by, nothing happened. Another 6 months passed, and still nothing happened. The engineers tried every conceivable plan to try out the orders, but the thing seemed out of the question, impossible. At the end of the year, Ford checked with his engineers, and again they informed him they had found no way to carry out his orders. "Go right ahead," said Ford. "I want it, and I'll have it." They went ahead, and then, as if by a stroke of magic, the secret was discovered. The Ford determination had won once more. This story may not be described with minute accuracy, but the sum and substance of it is correct. Deduce from it, you who wish to think and grow rich, the secret of the Ford millions if you can. You'll not have to look very far. Henry Ford is a success because he understands and applies the principles of success. One of these is desire, knowing what one wants. Remember this Ford story as you read and pick out the lines in which the secret of his stupendous achievement have been described. If you can do this, if you can lay your finger on the particular group of principles which made Henry Ford rich, you can equal his achievements in almost any calling for which you are suited. You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, because when Henley wrote the prophetic lines, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, he should have informed us that we are the masters of our fate, the captains of our soul, because we have the power to control our thoughts. He should have told us that the ether in which this little earth floats, in which we move and have our being, is a form of energy moving at an inconceivable high rate of vibration, and that the ether is filled with a form of universal power which adapts itself to the nature of thoughts we hold in our minds, that influence us in natural ways to transmute our thoughts into their physical equivalent. If the poet had told us of this great truth, we would know why it is that we are the masters of our fate, the captains of our souls. He should have told us with great emphasis that this power makes no attempt to discriminate between destructive thoughts and constructive thoughts, that it will urge us to translate into physical reality thoughts of poverty, just as quickly as it will influence us to act upon thoughts of riches. He should have told us, too, that our brains become magnetized with the dominant thoughts which we hold in our minds, and by means with which no man is familiar, these magnets attract to us the forces, the people, the circumstances of life, which harmonize with the nature of our dominating thoughts. He should have told us that before we can accumulate riches in great abundance, we must magnetize our minds with intense desire for riches, that we must become money conscious until the desire for money drives us to create definite plans for acquiring it. But being a poet and not a philosopher, Henley contented himself by stating a great truth in poetic form, leaving those who followed him to interpret the philosophical meaning of his lines. Little by little, the truth has unfolded itself, until it now appears certain that the principles described in this book hold the secret of mastery over our economic fate. We are now ready to examine the first of these principles. Maintain a spirit of open-mindedness, and remember as you read, they are the invention of no one man. The principles were gathered from the life experience of more than 500 men who actually accumulated riches in huge amounts, men who began in poverty, but with little education, without influence. The principles worked for these men. You can put them into work for your own enduring benefit. You will find it easy, not hard to do. Before you read the next chapter, I want you to know that it conveys factual information which might easily change your entire financial destiny, as it has so definitely brought changes of stupendous proportions to two people described. I want you to know also that the relationship between these two men and myself is such that I could have taken no liberties with the facts, even if I wished to do so. One of them has been my closest personal friend for almost 25 years. The other is my son. The unusual success of these two men, success which they generously accredit to the principle described in the next chapter, more than justifies this personal reference as a means of emphasizing the far-flung power of this principle. Almost 15 years ago, I delivered the commencement address at the Salem College, Salem, West Virginia. I emphasized the principle described in the next chapter, which with so much intensity that one of the members of the graduating class definitely appropriated it and made it a part of his own philosophy. The young man is now a member of Congress and an important factor in the present administration. Just before this book went to the publisher, he wrote me a letter in which he so clearly stated his opinion of the principle outlined in the next chapter that I have chosen to publish his letter as an introduction to that chapter. It gives you an idea of the rewards to come. My dear Napoleon, my member of Congress, having given me an insight into the problems of men and women, I am writing to offer a suggestion which may become helpful for thousands of worthy people. With apologies, I must state that the suggestions, if acted upon, will mean several years of labour and responsibility for you, but I am enheartened to make the suggestion because I know your great love for rendering useful service. In 1922, you delivered the commencement address at Salem College when I was a member of the graduating class. In that address, you planted in my mind an idea which has been responsible for the opportunity I now have to serve the people of my state, and will be responsible in a very large measure for whatever success I may have in the future. The suggestion I have in mind is that you put into a book the sum and substance of the address you delivered at Salem College, and in that way give the people of America an opportunity to profit by your many years of experience and association with the men who, by their greatness, have made America the richest nation on earth. I recall, as though it were yesterday, the marvellous description you gave of the method by which Henry Ford, with but little schooling, without a dollar, with no influential friends, rose to great heights. I made up my mind then, even before you had finished your speech, that I would make a place for myself, no matter how many difficulties I had to surmount. Thousands of young people will finish their schooling this year, and within the next few years, every one of them will be seeking just such a message of practical encouragement as the one I received from you. They will want to know where to turn, what to do, to get started in life. You can tell them because you have helped to solve the problems for so many people. If there is any possible way that you can afford to render so great a service, may I offer the suggestion that you include with every book one of your personal analysis charts, in order that the purchaser of the book may have the benefit of a complete self-inventory, indicating, as you indicated to me years ago, exactly what is standing in the way of success. Such a service as this, providing the readers of your book with a complete, unbiased picture of their faults and their virtues, would mean to them the difference between success and failure. The service would be priceless. Millions of people are now facing the problem of staging a comeback because of the depression, and I speak from personal experience when I say I know these earnest people would welcome the opportunity to tell you their problems and to receive your suggestions for their solution. You know the problems of those who face the necessity of beginning all over again. There are thousands of people in America today who would like to know how they can convert ideas into money, people who must start at scratch without finances and recoup their losses. If anyone can help them, you can. If you publish the book, I would like to own the first copy that comes from the press, personally autographed by you. With best wishes, believe me. Cordially yours, Jennings Randolph. That's it, is it? Will I leave it at that, Cindy?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Geraldine.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, I love hearing your accent so much. Like, and hi, Benjamin.
Hello.
And you're not muted.
Yes, I'm not at work today. I work from home today.
Cool. Well, this is Geraldine. Geraldine meet Benjamin.
Hello.
And we have people watching all over the place. So thank you so much for reading that, Geraldine. I guess he's
no,
basically like introducing the next chapter. Like he's doing a good job of it. But basically talking about the whole master. Have you guys seen the film Invictus about Nelson Mandela?
Yes.
Oh, it's a really great film. It's I won't give the whole story away, but basically it's based on a true story of when South Africa was going to play in the Rugby Cup for the first time. I might be completely getting this wrong. There was
Mm.
going to be a big sports championship, and they weren't going to play. But then I think Nelson Mandela did something, and I think I'm completely butchering the story. But basically, it shows like the spirit of what kept Nelson going all that time. Um,
Mm.
when he was in prison, and this poem was one of the poems that he kept with him. The poem that Napoleon's talking about by Henley, when you are, I'm master of my ship, captain of my soul, and I might be getting that back to front too. um, but did you guys want to share anything about that before I
Well,
advance?
it's all about inspiration, I guess. That's the whole point of the movie, I think. Inspiration makes us grander, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it takes you out of the limiting beliefs where you think that only other people can do things, or that you have to be some kind of strange superhero, or that like I remember the first time I heard about Henry Ford and Edison, or even Napoleon Hill. They just seem like people you can't really connect to, or like even very successful people today, like contemporary people. And I think once you start to read this book a lot, you realize that they're not they're talented, but the main thing that made them successful was this determination that they weren't going to give up until they were successful. And that's what makes you the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. That's the expression. I'm the master of my fate, captain of my soul.
Mm.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
I'm always, I think when we get to this kind of section of the book, I'm always very struck by the fact that, actually how many years I have went just kind of thinking, well, this is my station in life, I'm kind of working class and, get a job and stuff. And I think this book always makes me sort of see a much wider perspective. It makes me see that actually you can just choose exactly what you want in life, and not just monetary. It's like you can choose how you want your life to be. I
yeah,
think I went an awful lot of years never even questioning, just thinking, oh, this is what life is. And yeah, it's really sort of saying to you that you get to choose how your life is. I find that really inspiring.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that people like Henry Ford or Edison, even Andrew Carnegie, who was like Richard Branson 100 years ago, they started with nothing. Henry Ford didn't even go to college. I didn't realize that until quite recently. This is a guy who started the car. I mean, he didn't even go to college. So yeah, it's like you're saying, Geraldine. It's that they had this. They saw what this book is showing. That you don't have to just accept things as they are. You
Mm,
can put your sights on something and just keep going until you get to it.
mm,
And actually, there's a book, or it's actually an audio. It's called Oh, we lost Ben. Um, his connection must be going. It's called The Stranger's Secret by Earl Nightingale, and I think Earl was actually like influenced a lot by Napoleon Hill. Um, and he says like it was actually became the biggest selling personal development audio of all time. It was the first one of its kind. There wasn't a book. It was actually recorded, and it was
mm,
basically a talk that this guy Earl Nightingale did for his sales force, because he was an insurance guy. But he was interested in why some people would sell a lot and some people wouldn't sell anything. And he studied this and did this talk, which was recorded and just sold millions, like when it was available on general release. And one of the things that he said was that most people with our thoughts, it's like we just get on a ship and we don't have any clear sense of direction for it, so we just let the ship out of the harbor and just kind of let it go where we want. Um,
mm,
but actually, you can actually just decide where your destination is and put your ship in that direction and go there. Um, oh, and we've got a message from Benjamin saying that he got a call, so he had to jump off. That's okay. Thanks for letting us know. Um,
and
and
that
sometimes,
that works. that works in nicely with the reference of being captain of your soul, isn't it? It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
that's what made me think of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember sometimes I've heard that and I thought, well, I don't want my whole life to be predicted and to be boring and just like I'm working to a goal and that's it. And I sort of I had kind of resisted this idea of having a target and like really focusing on it because I thought, well, what if you can make life a bit more you can go with the flow and but what I've realized personally, this is just my take on it, is that if we lived on a really different planet, where most people were like in love with their lives and uh, lived exactly how they wanted, then it would be great to do that. But we live on a planet where many people, like a huge majority of people, don't really like what they do all the time and live with struggle. And I think if you just kind of let your ship go off, it's very easy to get caught up in all of that. And what Napoleon is saying in this book is, it doesn't mean your whole life has to be, boring and predictable. On the contrary, it's like this adventure of going on a big hike. You're going to go to Everest or wherever, the Himalayas, and you don't know exactly how the route's going to be, but you know that's where you're going, rather than just going to a local puddle. You decide I'm going to go and check out the Himalayas because they're beautiful and amazing, and I want to see that and experience that. And you're like, oh, I don't know exactly the road, each path I'm going to take, but that's where I'm going. So I think that's what this book helps us to do is set our sights. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. It's very inspiring, Sandy.
Ah, thank you. Well, this book is always on my mind. Well, not like all the time, but I find, and sometimes when if I come up against any like roadblocks or something, I found recently that I'm literally like, okay, Napoleon, what would you do here?
Great.
You know how he says in one of the later chapters about his cabinet of advisors, and every night he would speak to them. I'm not quite at that stage, but I think our choice to sort of become students of this book, you kind of connect to certain, like a different energy that a lot of people aren't really connecting to, that they could if they wanted. I really believe anyone could. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you want to add anything else before we wrap up, Geraldine?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, what you just said was great. Explained it really well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I
I'm not
recommend oh,
sure
go
if I'll
on.
make it because I'm doing the qigong on the beach and the time yeah,
Oh,
which I'll be
yeah.
on Monday.
Okay, cool. No worries. Well, enjoy your uh oh, and I'm just gonna look. I just want to find out about the film because okay, hang on 1 second. Invictus. I think if you're interested in this poem, the film is a really great way to sort of learn more about it. So here we go. It's based on the 1995 Rugby World Cup was hosted in South Africa after apartheid had been finished. Ah, so it was a way that. Oh, this is what. Okay, sorry, I really badly described it earlier. Basically the film is a way of how Nelson used sport to kind of try and bring the country together because there was a lot of, even though apartheid had been made illegal, obviously you can't just change things. People still had weird issues with each other, and the country was still quite divided. So this big sporting event, the Rugby World Cup, and Nelson used it as a way to try and like unite all South Africans together, whether they were black or white. It's just a beautiful film, and this poem gets a massive mention in that. So an extra resource for anyone who wants to watch it. In fact, this makes me want to go and watch it again. You might cry. So we're just a warning. Cry as easy as I do. Cool. Okay, well, enjoy your qigong tomorrow, Geraldine.
I will indeed. And yeah, thanks. That was great today.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for watching, and Ben for coming on, and see you all tomorrow or soon. Bye everyone,
Bye.
and thank you for reading, Geraldine.